Now available on Kickstarter, John Haynes at Death's Door. The man who rules the world takes on the Greek god of death in this all-new Kickstarter exclusive John Haynes comic book. Put in your pledge and get the standard, variant, or retro covers of John Haynes at Death's Door and other great stretch goal rewards on Kickstarter today. I am no supporter of R. Kelly, and I am absolutely disgusted by his deviant sexual behavior. However, I believe that every American citizen deserves to have a right to a fair trial, and they do deserve a right to due process under the law. Unfortunately, I believe your R. Kelly did not receive due process under the law, and I believe that the 30-year sentence that was given to R. Kelly was not one that was meted out as related to justice. Now, a federal judge recently gave singer R. Kelly a 30-year prison sentence in connection with a conviction that he has for alleged sexual exploitation of a child, racketeering, bribery, and sex trafficking. And when I take a critical look at this sentence that R. Kelly received, I believe that it clearly shows us a double standard in America's criminal justice system between black and white, because your R. Kelly received a much harsher sentence than British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, who was working with Jeffrey Epstein to go out here and I believe possibly groom young white girls to be exploited by a whole host of America's elite on Jeffrey Epstein's island. Now, your Ghislaine Maxwell, in comparison, wound up receiving only 20 years in prison for going out here and grooming young girls and facilitating the actual sex trafficking of young girls to the wealthy. But she only gets 20 years in prison. But your R. Kelly, he receives 30 years in prison for crimes that may not have been committed under the interpretation of the law. Because the charges filed against your R. Kelly are quite suspect, such as using the RICO Act for so-called racketeering to say that your R. Kelly was participating in racketeering and trying to make a profit on the transportation of these young girls, when we look at R. Kelly's finances and we see that the man is financially broke. So how is a broke person participating in racketeering? That's a critical question that I believe will have to be answered on appeal, because when you look at the evidence of the case, you have a broke man who's being accused of racketeering, but usually racketeering, like those who participate in organized crime, have a series of ledgers and books to show that there is an illegal business venture that somebody is participating in. And that kind of evidence for racketeering is what usually proves the case for racketeering. Usually you have a series of books for accounting to say that somebody is participating in an illegal enterprise and is looking to profit from that illegal enterprise. Now, your R. Kelly really wasn't looking to profit from getting involved with these girls that he got involved with. He was basically looking to participate in his sexual deviancy, and he was looking to gain possibly some social currency out of it, but social currency doesn't generate wealth. Now, there are also other charges that say he was participating in sex trafficking, but this is also quite suspect as well, because how can you say that he's participating in sex trafficking if there's some sort of girl who comes to go meet him? That's the flimsy argument that the government came out here with R. Kelly, saying that he was participating in sex trafficking because girls were brought to him. But the whole thing is that many of those girls were brought to R. Kelly by their parents. Now, they don't want to talk about that part as related to R. Kelly's case, that many of the mothers of these young girls brought these girls to R. Kelly, and they brought their daughters to R. Kelly because they wanted to go out here and get some money out of R. Kelly? And if the mothers did this, then shouldn't we be charging the mothers with sex trafficking as well? Because it's the mothers who brought the daughters across state lines, and instead of us going out here and looking to prosecute the mothers for child abuse, child neglect, and sex trafficking, they want to make R. Kelly look like the bad guy of the picture. And yes, he is a bad guy, but the whole thing is there are others that are equally accountable, and nobody wants to talk about many of these mothers who sent their daughters out here to be with R. Kelly in an effort to try to get access to R. Kelly's money. Now, that's a big part of the double standard as related to the R. Kelly case. The mainstream media wants you to believe that R. Kelly is some sort of big black brute sexual predator, and that they need to put the big black brute sexual predator down. But what really makes most of the people in the criminal justice system hypocrites is the fact that they will give Ghislaine Maxwell a pass, and your Ghislaine Maxwell has gone out here and participated in behavior that I believe is just as equally reprehensible as the behavior of your R. Kelly. Your Ghislaine Maxwell, a grown woman who knew better, willfully and intentionally went out here and groomed and exploited young girls and sent them to be taken advantage of by a series of predators on Epstein Island. And as she was sitting there letting this happen, she's given a pass by America's criminal justice system, but that same criminal justice system wants us to believe that they have gone out here and meted equal justice, but in both cases they have gone out here and meted out injustice, because the punishment for R. Kelly's crimes are just, again, questionably suspect, and most people, they're so caught up in their emotions about the behaviors that R. Kelly did that they're not looking at the letter of the law as related to his criminal behavior or the charges that were brought up as related to trying to get him convicted. Because when you look at the charges that were presented for R. Kelly, it just shows how the criminal justice system was looking to railroad him the same way they tried to railroad Bill Cosby. Because to say that R. Kelly was participating in racketeering is, again, really suspect, because how can there be racketeering from a man who had no ledgers or no books to show that he was trying to profit from any sort of business, and his financial statements say that he is fiscally insolvent? So that case right there is quite flimsy. Then there's the case of the sex trafficking, where it's basically the mothers bringing the daughters to your R. Kelly. And again, the case is quite flimsy when you look at it from the letter of the law. Unfortunately, what the prosecutor did here was try the case in the court of public opinion, and as they were trying the case in the court of public opinion, they were getting women in their feelings about R. Kelly, and as those women were caught up in their feelings, and those feelings were reinforced by that docuganda known as Surviving R. Kelly, this created an environment where your R. Kelly was not in a space where he was going to be able to get a fair trial based on the evidence, because everyone was caught up in their feelings about the case. And as they were caught up in their feelings about the case, your R. Kelly was not allowed an opportunity to get due process under the law. Now, again, I'm stating once more, I do not like R. Kelly. I do not respect R. Kelly. He is a piece of human trash and a complete sexual deviant. But if we are to have a nation of laws, everybody, including a piece of trash like R. Kelly, deserves to have their day in court, and they deserve to have a day in court where they can get due process under the law, and they can be able to try their case in a court based on the facts of the law, not the feelings of individuals who have, in some cases, some contempt for a black man. Because what happened with the case of R. Kelly is the same thing that happened with the case of Bill Cosby. There were those in the media looking to try the case in the court of public opinion, And as they were looking to try the case in the court of public opinion, they used docugandas like You're Surviving R. Kelly to try to sway the public's opinion as related to the alleged behavior of a defendant. And then they tried to go out here and get people emotional about your R. Kelly and then try to demonize him. And this made it where the whole jury pool did not see him from an objective perspective. No, they saw him from the subjective perspective of what the media and the prosecutors wanted you to see, not seeing things based on the evidence and rule of law. And that's a very dangerous environment to create for our criminal justice system, because when you have it where people are trying cases in the court of public opinion and not trying cases in court based on evidence and going on their feelings instead of their facts, this creates an environment where innocent people can wind up being sent to prison for a crime that they did not commit. And this could possibly be the case for your R. Kelly. As related to several of these charges, your R. Kelly could be winding up going to prison for 30 years for crimes that he did not commit, like I believe with the racketeering and the trafficking charges. I believe that these charges could get overturned on appeal, and this could destroy credibility for those who are looking to prosecute people, because when you try to prosecute people in the court of public opinion, what you do is you wind up making it where people don't see the institutions of criminal justice as credible. So this whole R. Kelly case, it really tarnishes the entire criminal justice system. And again, it shows us how there are still two criminal justice systems, one black and one white. And the criminal justice system for black people is designed to railroad individuals into being sentenced harshly for crimes that they did not commit on flimsy evidence and based on the feelings of individuals. And that is a bad criminal justice system when you think about it. Meanwhile, on the other side of the white side, you have somebody like Ghislaine Maxwell, who has participated in heinous crimes, and this woman is being given a complete pass by only getting 20 years in prison. If anything, your Ghislaine Maxwell deserves to get life in prison, because she was someone who helped orchestrate and facilitate the exploitation of children, and she was basically somebody who was completely indifferent to the whole sexual violation of these young girls. She didn't care about anyone, and she deserves a life sentence. I mean, what she did was absolutely reprehensible, but the criminal justice system wants us to believe that she gets a fair sentence at 20 years. But the whole thing I look at it is she didn't really get a fair sentence, because she's being given a pass for participating in facilitating this operation. And what's even more disturbing is that even with the sentencing of Ghislaine Maxwell, we still don't know who was out here being with these children and exploiting these children. That's the most disturbing part. We don't know who is out here. And again, it just shows us how backwards and deviant our criminal justice system is under white supremacy, and how your white supremacists basically with this criminal justice system is showing us that when it comes to black people, they will punish them to the fullest extent of the law, but they'll give a white woman a pass, and it's okay because it's white, they're white, and they say so. So when I look at this whole R. Kelly sentencing, it is an egregious travesty of justice, just like the whole sentencing of conviction of Bill Cosby. And even though your R. Kelly is a reprehensible human being, he still has rights under our United States Constitution. And the whole thing is we need to look out for his rights, because the whole thing is that if they can take the rights from men like R. Kelly or Bill Cosby, they can take your rights away, and they can railroad you into a sentence to prison for a crime you did not commit. And that's why it's important for people to understand what's at stake here with R. Kelly. What's at stake here with R. Kelly has to do with our United States Constitution. It has to do with our rights to due process under the law. It has to do with our right to be tried by a jury of our peers. I mean, these are essential constitutional standards that I believe were violated in the case of R. Kelly. And even though he's a horrible and reprehensible human being, he deserves to have his right to a fair trial. He deserves to be tried on charges for what he actually did and not wind up being made an example of because a group of females are in their feelings because they didn't get to become superstars like your R. Kelly promised them, or they're upset because they went out here and got with R. Kelly and all they got was used. Now, a lot of people want to say, again, R. Kelly is a pervert and a sexual deviant, and I'll agree with them on that. But the whole thing is, there was a whole system of enablers out here that allowed these girls to be exploited. And I've seen this go on when I was in high school and junior high school. These same girls were out here with 22, 23, 24-year-old men. And yes, it was illegal for them to be with them, but the mothers allowed it because these guys were the neighborhood drug dealers. These guys were the neighborhood dope man. They were buying these girls Gucci bags. They were buying these girls Gucci boots, shearling coats, leather jackets, and Air Jordan sneakers. So mom allowed their daughter to go out here and be with these guys, but they want to say, oh, R. Kelly is a pervert and a deviant. But the thing was, they were allowing this to go on. So shouldn't we be prosecuting many of the mothers out here in the 1980s and the 1990s because they signed off on a lot of this? And shouldn't we be prosecuting them because they allowed their daughters to be getting involved with 22, 23, 24, and even 30-year-old men? I mean, I have personally, sitting at the Park West lunch table or the Taft lunch table, heard many of these girls, and even on the train, bragging about how they were with these older guys. So a lot of people want to make R. Kelly out to be a monster, but there were a lot of so-called monsters in many Bronx neighborhoods and many inner city neighborhoods who were out here getting with these girls. And again, if we really want to go out here and deal with the crime that you say R. Kelly did, we should be prosecuting those mothers, and we should be prosecuting many of those parents for going out here and letting their daughters get involved with these kinds of guys. So when I look at the case of R. Kelly, again, he's a reprehensible, horrible human being, and a reprehensible, horrible human being in America under our Constitution deserves a right to due process under the law, and that is something that I believe your R. Kelly didn't get with this sentence, and it clearly shows how America has two criminal justice systems, one black and one white. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my positive black fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, you can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a wicked werewolf in this action-packed all-new E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS Legacy. The sorority secrets of the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS Legacy in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere.